Hey everybody, Mike from Ojas here. I got kettlebells, a little group of kettlebells here. Today, I want to talk to you about one of my favorite tools. I'm going to say most favorite. One of my most favorite tools in the gym, anywhere actually. One of my most favorite fitness tools, and that's the kettlebell. I love the kettlebell because of its versatility. You can do a lot. Really, you can do a lot with every piece of equipment in the gym. The sky's the limit. You can figure out how to do amazing things with a barbell, unconventional things with a barbell. Same thing with a medicine ball, dumbbells, everything. I have favorites for all of that stuff. But today I'm going to discuss specifically the kettlebells. This is really one of my most favorite tools. When I go away from home, when I go camping, I take a lot of camping trips in the summer with my wife and kids, and I like to still do some fitness when I'm camping. What I am always certain to bring along is a kettlebell or two or three, probably no more than that, usually only about 3 tops. But last time we were gone for a week and I only brought 1 kettlebell and was able to get a few good workouts in, and it was effective. Didn't take up a whole lot of space, and I can feel challenged, and I don't need a bunch of equipment. The other great thing about a kettlebell, like specifically before we get into I'm going to share with you today my 5 favorite kettlebell moves, or at least 5 of my favorite. They can kind of transition. They can morph what my favorite is, but today I'm going to go with my 5 favorite today, what I've been really feeling lately when it comes to kettlebells. Another big thing about kettlebells that I really like is the offset weight. So a dumbbell, you've got the weight squared up in line with your forearm. It's a centered weight in your hand. With a kettlebell, you can see that weight is hanging off the back side of my arm right here. So doing something like kettlebell presses, it's just adding that much more of a challenge because the weight's offset. So when you're working with a kettlebell, in the hands, especially a single hand position with a kettlebell, or even both hands same time. But if you're working with a kettlebell in the classic hold, we call this the rack position here. You're going to go straight wrist, kettlebell behind the hand, kind of resting on your forearm. That creates an offset weight. So that weight is pulling off to my left here, what a dumbbell would be lined right up with my hand. So it just instantly makes the movement, any movement I do in this position, a little bit harder because the weight's offset. Same thing, so like with a press here, I'm going to be working on a little bit more shoulder stability when I do a kettlebell press compared to a dumbbell press. Another thing is holding on to one kettlebell and doing offset weight with things like squats. We've got more weight off to my left side. And that would be the same with a dumbbell. If I only held one dumbbell, it'd be offset still because it'd be more weight on one side. But a kettlebell makes it even more unstable because the weight's over even further. These are just little details. It doesn't mean you're missing out. You're not going to be able to be fit without using kettlebells. But I can tell you what, it does add a lot. Doing these movements with an offset weight, you're going to just add a lot more to your core stability and to your joint stability, like shoulders with presses, single leg movements. If I'm going to do a split squat and I'm holding a kettlebell on the right side and squatting with my left leg, a lot of weight is forced to be, most of the weight is way over on my right side. So you got to use the core. That wants to pull me down right here. I'm going to keep the core tight and do those squats, and I'm going to focus on stability a little bit more. So it's cool. There's a lot of other reasons that I enjoy kettlebells. One thing you'll notice when you get to working with kettlebells can be a little discouraging is getting the movements down and doing them smoothly so you don't bash up your arm. And at first, even just holding a substantially heavier kettlebell, like holding some weight in that arm here, you're going to feel a lot of pressure on the back side of the arm. But I promise, as you work more with a kettlebell, your arms just kind of get used to it. But what I also was saying is learning the movements so You don't bash up the arm. So when I'm doing a snatch, when I'm first teaching people, it's really common for people to do that snatch and it flops. It's kind of hard, I guess, for me to show you. I'm so used to doing it right that doing it wrong might be a little bit tough. But it'd be something like this. And then it flops over and smacks me in the back of the arm. That can be pretty discouraging. You're like, man, I don't want to use kettlebells. My arms are still hurting from that. So yeah, it can bruise you up a little bit in the beginning. This fitness thing isn't 100% safe. If you want to stay completely safe, completely like no possibility, I can't even say no possibility of injury, but if you're really just trying to be super safe and have all the padding and safety as possible when it comes to fitness, things are going to get really boring. You might have to work on just stationary machines that isolate one muscle at a time, and you're just going to lose out on a whole lot of fitness. You want to get some serious fitness, bulletproof your joints, bulletproof your core, and be durable, be strong, able to move in many ways, lift up odd objects like moving a dresser in the house, moving a refrigerator, or at least helping move a refrigerator, things like that. You are going to be doing movements that have a possibility of causing some kind of pain, you know. So I can say that you may, in the beginning, if you haven't used kettlebells and you're trying to get into it, you might be feeling kind of tender on the backside of your arms for a little while. But I promise you stick to it and you actually focus on trying to get better at these movements and do them right, you're not going to have that pain anymore. It's going to go away. Work through it, work at it for a little while, take your time, start out with lighter weights and work your way up, and you're not going to have that pain, and it's going to be worth it. You're going to build a whole lot of strength and stability in your body. You can use, with kettlebells, you can use somewhat lighter weight and get the same challenge when it comes to like any movement, when it comes to squats, presses, rows, whatever. Rows might be close to pretty much the same as a dumbbell because the weight is going to be pulled directly under your hand. So it doesn't change that. It doesn't really create the same kind of offset that I talk about with the presses. But I can say that there is added benefit. It's well worth it to kind of work through that discomfort that you feel on the backside of your arms. So that's enough blah, blah, blah for now. I want to share with you now. We're going to cut to some videos and I'm going to talk over them. I'm going to share with you my 5 favorite kettlebell movements today and why I like them. And during that time, as I explain them, I'll have videos playing of me doing each of the movements. All right, guys, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoy it. Hope maybe you get something out of it. If you see a move you've never tried before, try it out and leave a message in the comments and let me know how it went. If there's anything you want to see me share about, if there's a movement that you really love with kettlebells that I left out here and you'd like me to talk about, or you just want to share with what you enjoy doing with kettlebells, then go ahead and share that with me. I'd really appreciate it. I'd like to see what you guys are into when you're using kettlebells. All right, let's go through those movements. I appreciate you. We'll talk to you in a little bit. Okay, so I decided not to do just voiceovers. I think on a couple moves, I will do voiceovers. On a couple, I won't. Some I won't. Who knows? It's going to be a surprise. And I'm not going to edit out that I said I'm just going to do voiceovers in the beginning because don't feel like that. So anyway, this next one's going to be called the kettlebell clean. And I'm going to do like a swing clean. I like doing this version. And a kettlebell clean, just like your barbell clean, it's getting that kettlebell or your dumbbell clean, getting this kettlebell up to the rack position. And this is what I'm going to do, the swing clean. Actually, I'll show you a couple variations. So first, I'm going to show you the swing clean. So I got that kettlebell a little ways out in front of me. And I'm going to hike it back, just like a swing, but then pull it up into a clean. Bam! So it's a power move, explosive movement. I'm using a lot in the hips here. But if you can see, during this motion, there's not just the hips, it's not just the arm moving. There's a shrug in the shoulder as I come up, pulling that kettlebell back with a shrug, trying to keep it close to the body as best I can, tight to the body, pull it up, rotate the wrist so it lands gently on the back of my arm. And I saw a video of Jeff Martone teaching this, and I really like it. It's like you're zipping up a jacket and rotating the wrist. Bam! Kettlebell clean right here. So it goes around the wrist, not over the wrist. That's where you're really going to bash up the backside of your arm. So here, rotate. That's the swing clean. So you're going right down into another swing and popping it up. The movement happens close to the body, not swinging it way out front and then pulling it in. I'm going to pop with the hips, a little shrug of the shoulder, little turning swing clean, a little shrug with the shoulder, yank it up, bend that arm, and rotate it around the wrist. That's the swing clean. Another variation is just doing the clean from the floor. So right here, you're going to pull tight to the body, knuckles under chin. I like this motion because it helps develop power. It's a explosive power movement, a lot in the hips, that power. So there's no way I can take this 50-pounder, well, maybe I can, I'll try. Take this 50-pounder and just curl, no, pick it up and rotate it around. Ugh. I need that power from the hips up. Pop it up there, little shrug, so full body here, not just my arm pulling that weight up here. Ha! So, from a dead stop off the floor, I'm going to get right over that kettlebell, grab a hold of it, tight to the body. I'm going to do a couple with the right hand, because I've been doing a bunch with the left, but tight to the body, zip that jacket up, rotate the wrist. And you can see there's a shrug there. Not just the hips, I'm also getting power from that shrug. The shrug, you want it to happen when your arm is straight, and then pull the arm, scoop it up under that body, up under that kettlebell, rotating the wrist, and then it'll land softly. The finish is always knuckles under chin, right here, and not out there. That's going to rag on that elbow joint especially, but still kind of hard on the shoulder, really bad. You can feel the pressure. We don't want to end up out here, and you can see I'm all cocksided here, lopsided, whatever, cockeyed, lopsided, cocksided, something, whatever. Anyway, knuckles under chin at the top, real tight to the body. Arm is resting against the body. This is a strong rack position. So a couple from the front, straight from the floor here. Pop, knuckles under chin. Tight to the body, straight line, zip your jacket up, give it a little finesse at the top. That's the kettlebell clean, the swing clean, and a dead stop clean. Oh yeah, and that's a great movement. I use it. The reason I like it a lot, it develops explosive power in the body, especially the hips and the hammies. But I use it a lot in like the circuit form, or I'll use it in between strength exercises with the barbell, something like that. Or I might be doing bench press and I want to get my heart rate up in between an exercise, and I can work on power at the same time. Do my like 5 reps or whatever I'm doing, 8 reps, 1 rep, whatever I'm doing on the barbell, and then come over and get 10 cleans each side. So it's just a really basic kettlebell movement that I really like to include often in my plans. All right. Appreciate ya. Video's still going. What am I talking about? Oh yeah, with the kettlebell clean, also I want to add this in. So this video is going to be all chopped up. I'm going to piece it together and try to make it as smooth as I can, right? Just thought of something else. With the clean, like I said, it's a power motion. You want to, as you get that, you want to work on it first with a lighter weight and try to learn. But I've noticed as I teach people that we really get the hang of it a lot better once we start feeling a little bit more weight. You take, for me, this is a 25-pound kettlebell. It's really light for a kettlebell clean for me. I have to be really controlled with the power that I give this 25-pound kettlebell. And so if it's someone new to the kettlebell clean, then they're trying to use a 10-pound kettlebell, they're here, it's easy to get carried away with that power and the kettlebell's flying all over the place. So I recommend, try the motion with a lighter kettlebell. If it feels like it wants to fly away and you really have to dial back the power you use on it, try a heavier kettlebell and it might actually clean up the motion some. That's something I've found is sometimes a little bit more weight actually helps you learn the movement easier. So for training, when I'm working out and I really want to develop maximum power and try to really focus on the heavy weight, I'm using something like an 80 or 100-pound kettlebell. And that's really going to make me work hard. And when you're going heavy and you're trying to develop maximum explosive power, maybe you're only doing 3 reps at a time, 5 reps at a time, multiple sets. If you're trying to work more cardiovascular with the kettlebell clean and you're trying to keep the heart rate up, drop that weight down, do something like 8 or 10 reps each side or time the set, 30 or 40 second set. And you can do alternating cleans too. Get it up there, switch the hands, get it up there. So that's a lot about the kettlebell clean. I think that's the last time I'm going to make a video, or that's the last time I'll pop back in and talk about the kettlebell clean. I'm sweating. Okay. Sweating, need more of a break in between these videos. Take a couple seconds, get my sweat to calm down. It's hot, kind of muggy outside, warm in this room. Summertime, feeling it. All right, anyway, enough of that. You don't care about how I'm feeling. You want to know what's going on with these movements. Next one is the kettlebell snatch. I'm going to show you a little bit lighter so I don't get so worn out. That 80-pound kettlebell clean getting me. All right, so pretty much along the same lines as the kettlebell clean, we're doing a kettlebell snatch. This is another one of my top 5 favorite kettlebell movements. I use it all the time. Guys, snatching left and right. You'll find me snatching 5 or 6 times a day. I love a clean snatch. So we're gonna show you how to do a little bit of a clean snatch here. So anyway, enough that. Same as the kettlebell clean, we can also do swing snatches here. And there's actually kind of multiple ways of doing the kettlebell snatch. A couple different ways that we'll see it done right here like I'm doing. Snatch it up, bring it down like a press, dump it out for another swing. Snatch it up, down like a press, dump it out for another swing. Bam. So there's that. Or you can, I don't know what they call it. They might even call it hard style. I'm not a professional kettlebeller. I just do it and I teach people how to do it. But the terms on how, the history of the kettlebell, don't ask me. Maybe go ask Chip Conrad from Body Tribe, because I know that guy knows the history of all this stuff. So shout out to Chip Conrad. He definitely turned me on to a lot of kettlebell work. But what I was getting at, another variation is just snatching it up there, going for the next one right after. So not bringing it down like a press. Just up and down, up and down. Whole time I am trying to keep it fairly close to the body, so I'm not swinging it way out front and then pulling it up like that. If you see, if I'm just trying to snatch it up, the motion's going way out in front of my body. And here, that's another time, kettlebell's gonna slam against the wrist. Here, up, bam, bam. So that's another way to bruise up that wrist, bruise up the forearm. But kettlebell snatch now is just like a clean. We pull it up and it's somewhat of a punch through the handle that's going to help it lay down softly on the wrist. So I'll do a couple more swing snatches and you'll see everything from the beginning's the same. I'm going to power it up, keep it tight to the body, but instead of coming up to the shoulder, we got that shrug, and then there's a bit of a row, pull back, and then punch the hand through, Bring it down like a press. Slow motion here. Swing back. I'm up here, and I yank back, punch through, and that causes the kettlebell to land gently on the hand. Kind of quick motion, but you'll see it. We got the hips, shrug, pull back, punch through, and then up right over the shoulder at the top. Bring it down like a press is my most common way of doing these. Other way, so that was the swing snatch. Also, you got the dead stop snatch, like from the floor, keeping it tight to the body. Hips, shrug, pull, punch. Bam! Straight down to the floor. This one takes a lot of practice to avoid bashing your wrist. Big key is that punch through at the top. Get it up here, punch through, and you think, what? Punch through? That's going to make it slam harder. But actually, it rotates that handle up in motion with where that kettlebell is, that you're just like putting the wrist right in the right spot to where, I don't know if it's physics, some kind of mathematics, something happens where that kettlebell just gently lands. It looks so quick. Slow down that video a little bit and you'll see that it just lands right where it needs to go. So, I mean, that's basically it. Same with the kettlebell clean. You want to keep your heart rate up, do more reps, kind of a moderate weight. The motion's going to feel better. You're going to get the hang of it faster. If you try to step up to a little bit more weight, something that you actually need power from the hips, power from that shrug to get it up there, rather than going with something real light that just wants to fly through the ceiling when I want to put power into it. If I'm trying to give this thing power, it just flies up there. And I still kind of controlled that there. So I have to be controlled with the amount of power that I give a lighter kettlebell snatch. And then you're not really learning the motion exactly like it's meant to be done, because you're having to be reserved about the power you're putting into it. So I would say try to find a weight that is just above what you could handle without any hips. No hips here, just pulling it up like that. You know, you don't really have to do that. Play with weights. Start out light. Like, that's a little bit out of control because I too much power. I have to dial back my power to keep that clean. Then bump up the weight and practice with something a little heavier so that you actually have to bring power from the hips and that shrug to be able to get it up there. Sweating like crazy. Because then, as you work at it, so like I said, a lot more reps if you're trying to keep your heart rate up and you're working, you know, in a circuit form, a little bit lighter weight, more reps. But if you're trying to develop maximum explosive power, think 3 to 5 reps. You can even do singles with this. I've done it as I was learning to do this 80-pounder, which I'm not totally clean about. I was only doing singles with it to get it down. There's no way that I'd be able to get that up without some hips and a shrug, that explosive power from the hips. Another thing about snatches and cleans, it's great carryover to your deadlifts. It's going to put more power into, more training for power into your hips, to where when you go and do your deadlifts, you have more explosive power prepared to help you out with those deadlifts. And I can explain more of the carryover of power movements into your strength movements on another video. But that's the kettlebell snatch. Another movement that I just absolutely love. Okay, quick and easy one for you. This is the kettlebell press. So overhead press. I'll show you a couple variations, kind of in the same family, but this is the kettlebell overhead press. This is the strict press. And full range of motion is what I like to teach with this. So knuckles on the chin at the bottom, like that strong rack position like you would do with your kettlebell clean. That's the bottom position to me. You want to see a straight wrist, knuckles under chin, arm against the body, and then rotate that palm forward as you press overhead. Bam. Full range of motion. So that's kettlebell overhead, strict overhead press. Kettlebell strict press right there. And what I mean about full range of motion, the way I teach it, come down to this rack position and go from there. I like that. What I see sometimes is people just coming down here and calling that the press. It's actually harder for me. Bam! And to me, you're leaving a little bit on the table when it comes to your press. So you can get a little more range of motion. You're getting a little more work in muscles, smaller muscles like your rotator cuff muscles. When you're coming down to get that rotation, you're also practicing that strong rack position. So you're just stronger in a larger range of motion. You have more mobility under weight there. So why leave that out is the way I feel about it. So hit that strict press when you're going for a kettlebell overhead press. Hit that full range of motion. So other variation of the kettlebell overhead press is the kettlebell push press. And this is where that rack position is important, and you want to make sure you have that because it's a power move with the kettlebell. It's a power version of a press overhead. So you're going to bend the knees, bend the hips slightly. So dip and push overhead. You're using momentum from the power in your legs and your hips. So a little leg drive, we call it, to push that weight overhead. Dip and push, dip and push. That's the push press. And the reason that rack position is important at the bottom is you think of kinetic energy. You think of those balls, like 5 of the steel balls lined up on pendulums, and one on the far end hits, the 4 in the middle or 3 in the middle or whatever don't move, the other one on the other side moves, and back and forth. That's kinetic energy running through those balls. Same thing here. So I want my body to be firmly connected to that kettlebell when I'm pulling power from my legs. So that dip and push. So I'm pushing it off my body. If I'm out here and I go for the push press, we got a lot of work in these muscles as almost shock absorbers in that pressing motion. A lot of work on the joints, the elbow and shoulder joint there, to keep that weight stable, and then pressing it overhead that you lose power in the motion. So you want to start from that strong rack position where you're not using strength in the arm. I'm not using any bit of really just not using the joints to hold that weight. I'm just in that rack position. Everything's rested here. The legs are getting coiled up, power up overhead, and you're going to be able to press a lot more weight from the kettlebell push press when you use that strong rack position. So that's kettlebell overhead press. Same kind of thing when it comes to training for maximum strength. Same as the snatches and the cleans. When you're trying to build max strength, you're going to do less reps. I don't need to keep going over that. You get it. Less reps when you're trying to build up maximum press here. You want to get stronger, go with that 1 to 5 rep range for that strict press. You hit a plateau with your strict press. So, I got a weight that's challenging for me. I'm strict pressing this 50, and it gets tough at 5 reps, and I'm hitting that plateau and man, I just can't get that 6th. Well, here's a way to overload the muscles, to add a little bit more to it, is by doing your strict reps that you can. So I'm on that last one that's really hard. Then add a few more with a push press. So you can blend the two and push your muscles a little bit further developing strength and power in that movement. So, all right, so that's the kettlebell press, the strict press and the push press. Great movements. Okay, guys, here's one. Change my clothes out, especially for this lift right here. Got to wear the camo tank top when you're doing the Turkish get-up. Gonna take these shoes off. Just kidding, I didn't change my clothes out. This is a different day. I got you, didn't I? But anyway, now, another one of my favorite kettlebell exercises is the Turkish get-up, the Kettlebell Turkish get-up. You can do these with dumbbells. Easy breezy. You can do it with anything. You can do Turkish get-ups with nothing in your hand. But the idea normally is that you're lifting a weight when you're doing a Turkish get-up. And I like kettlebells for the same reason I like kettlebells for a lot of other movements. It makes a little more unstable offset weight in my hand. So kettlebell, the Turkish get-up is really huge builder of shoulder stability, and you'll see why. If you haven't seen a Turkish get-up, I'll explain, and you'll see why. So that's it. Turkish get-up itself builds a lot of shoulder stability. Adding a kettlebell just makes it that much tougher, that much more challenging on holding a nice stable shoulder. And that's why I like the kettlebell Turkish get-up. It's a little bit more challenging, so you don't need as much weight either compared to a dumbbell to make it tough too. So this is a Turkish get-up. I'm going to show you a few reps and talk about it. So this is one of the biggest bang for your buck exercises. When I coach this, I'm always telling people, imagine you have a glass of milk. I like milk a lot. So I say, imagine you got a glass of milk sitting on your knuckles here. It's really not flat. It'd be hard to put a glass of milk on your knuckles, but who cares? Imagine you've got a flat table on the top of your hand here, and you've got a glass of milk on there, and you don't want to spill it. So your idea is you're keeping your arm nice and straight and vertical through the motion the whole way through. So this is a Turkish get-up. I've got weight in my left hand. That same side, knee is bent. My foot's really close to my butt. So real full knee bend there basically. Other leg is straight out. My other arm is off to the side, kind of at an angle. I don't know the angle, maybe 45-degree angle about. But you're going to go up to your elbow. Hand is still pointing straight at the sky. Go up to the hand. So now I'm in kind of a seated position here. Hands pointing straight at the sky still. I'm going to raise those hips up and sweep the opposite leg under. So now I've got my right knee on the floor. Arms still vertical. You're coming up here into this half kneeling position. And you're going to come to a spot where right here, my legs are out wide. This isn't a real efficient split squat, not a real efficient way to stand up. So I'm going to move that leg over. You can do that a couple ways. You can move the leg over to square up the hips right here, or you can just turn towards the knee. That just twisted my knee up though, so more often I move the leg over. So now you're slightly turned, but then you just stand tall. Push through that left leg to stand up. I'm going to take that right knee back down to the floor. Put the right hand on the floor, arm still vertical the whole time. Here, kick the leg back through, right leg back through, and then I'm going to slide down to the floor, and arm is straight in the air the whole time. That's one Turkish get-up. One of the biggest bang for your buck exercises out there. As you can see, like I said, there is a whole lot of shoulder stability work here. Right now, my arm is straight in front of my chest. At the top, the arm's straight overhead. So we're moving through different positions while holding weight above the shoulder. So you're getting a whole lot of shoulder stability through multiple positions. You can see here now the arm is out to the side of my body. And then I'm coming up and it's right overhead. So you get a lot of shoulder stability work. Along with that, you can see I'm getting leg work. So single leg work coming up on that single leg here. So it's kind of a lunge or a split squat, you'd call it. So that side, when I'm working the right arm, that right leg gets some work there. Also, we're getting a whole bunch of core here. You can see right there, I had to control myself down to the side here. And when you're coming up, there's a lot of core involved in that motion. especially off to the sides there. And then you'll see the beginning of the motion. There's like a sit-up. So there's a lot of core involved in that. Also, another bang for your buck here is we're getting some hip mobility a little bit. So here, I'm squeezing those hips up, and then I'm gonna get down into that half kneeling position. And that's just moving the hips through a lot of different range of motion there. When we come back up to the feet, back down, bam. One of the longest reps in the world. So another thing I really love about the Turkish get up, with it being such a big move, a lot going on there, multiple things happening right there. Or talk about the legs, the core, the shoulders, all that it's a full body move. In just one exercise, your whole body's getting a workout. We're not getting a pull in there, right? We're not actually pressing, but your whole body's working in some way there. If you really want to get detailed about it, there are back muscles working, there are chest muscles working throughout this whole motion. Your whole body's working, that's the point. So you can do this as a standalone workout. I've done this plenty of times. There's a gym I used to work at, and even done it here before too, but a gym I used to work at that had a big range of different weights of kettlebells, and I would just start with the lightest kettlebell, do a Turkish get up, come back down, one on each side, go to the next one, get up, back down, one on each side, and keep going, ramping all the way up till I did the heaviest Turkish get up I could do, and then come back down, and I'd take as little rest as possible. And by the time I was done with that pyramid, all the way back down to the light one, I did a heck of a workout. And it's only 10, maybe 15 minutes, depending on how many reps I do, how many choices of weight I get to do there. Standalone, that's a great workout. You take 15, 20 minutes and just do a whole bunch of Turkish get-ups, and you can say you got a pretty solid workout in for the day. So that's what I'm saying about Turkish get-ups. I'm going to just show you a few more reps so you can kind of get an idea how it works. I'm to the side here so you can see. Right hand or left hand's holding the weight, vertical here. We've gone a little heavier. It's great challenge. It's kind of fun. You get into Turkish get-ups and you can challenge how much weight you can lift on it. Make sure you're confident with each step, or at least confident with the idea of bailing, knowing how to get out of that and out from under the kettlebell without smashing yourself. So, you know, you get weight on there, you get a little too ambitious, there is some danger involved, right? Well, what is life if it doesn't have a little bit of danger involved? That's the way I feel about it. So, two each way, and you can see different things happening when I go a little heavier. The form might break down or change a little bit. I wouldn't say break down. I do some different movement when the weight gets a little heavier. I need a little momentum from the legs to kind of help me get up into that sit-up position. I'm changing the way I move the hips through this motion here. Cool thing is, really, I would say there's no exact form to a Turkish get-up. Someone might tell you there's perfect form. That is the way you do a Turkish get-up. I pretty much think you go through that motion, basically, figure out how you can get up safely, effectively, from laying down on your back all the way up to your feet and then back down to your back. You did a Turkish get-up, and I'm proud of you. I guess that there's other moves. There's one called the check get-up, where you get more into a squat position. And so that's different. But things change when you're using more weight. So let's see how I can do with this 80-pounder, especially since I've been talking and haven't warmed up much. So I'll shut up now. Oh, shoot. What? Okay. I wasn't ready for that. Everything was weird. Everything felt weird. I'm going to try again. We'll try with the other side. Get your mind right, Mike. Okay, here we go. 80-pound turkeys, get up. Okay. And I can do it on the right side, I promise you. I think I was doing something a little wrong on the form, sitting here talking, not focusing. That's not dangerous, right? But anyway, it's fun. You can challenge yourself. That's the Kettlebell Turkish get up. Probably went a little long on that one. But anyway, I wanted you to check that one out. That's one of my 5 favorite kettlebell movements. Let's go on to the next. Okay. It's kind of funny. I said in the beginning of the video that I was going to do the exercises and then do a voiceover. And I liked what I said in the beginning of the video with everything, all the content of that portion. And I could have gone back and redid the video. So I would say, well, I'm going to do these exercises and explain to you. But I'm explaining right now that I didn't want to do that. I'm just going to show you these movements and talk right now while I'm doing the exercises, kind of giving you an idea of how each movement works rather than just trying to explain in a voiceover. I found that that just doing an exercise and then trying to do a voiceover explaining I didn't have enough time. I wanted to talk more. I want to talk more and share with you guys. We can hang out while we're doing this stuff. Okay, so another exercise is the kettlebell swing, one of the most basic kettlebell movements in the book. There probably are a ton of people out there who haven't done anything with a kettlebell but kettlebell swings. Like that's the only kettlebell movement they do. They are missing out on a whole lot of fun with only doing kettlebell swings. There's a whole lot more involved in kettlebell, a whole lot more to do, a lot more to discover and practice and try out here and learn from and grow from. But this one I'm going to show you. This is one of my favorite movements. It's so awesome. It's so straightforward, and you can build a whole lot of work capacity with kettlebell swings. Easy, just simple form of building work capacity by doing a certain number of swings one day, maybe 100 one day, and then take a couple days off. Next time you come back, do 110. Anyway, just slowly tacking on more kettlebell swings, and that'll just help you grow your work capacity. Easy breezy. There's nothing complicated about it. Just it's progressive overload. Keep adding more reps each time you come back to the kettlebell swing. So the kettlebell swing is a hinging exercise. That makes it awesome for warm-ups for your deadlifts. It's an explosive hinging exercise. So we're here bowing and standing tall. It's butt back, butt forward. I'll show you a few reps. I like to get the kettlebell out in front of me here. So I always say it's like a football center. Gonna hike that ball back, and then we hike, stand tall, squeezing glutes and legs straight. And it's like you're in a standing plank position. We just want to come straight up, nice and snappy. All the power's coming from the hips. All the power's coming from the glutes. On that last swing, right here, we're going to go down and out front. That's really how I like to start and finish a kettlebell swing. It's the safest, most efficient way. I didn't come up with that. Someone taught me, and I like it. Rather than, you'll see people grab a kettlebell, pick it up, and then get the momentum going. Whew! And then they stop, and they're like, oh, I'm done? Okay. And set it down. You can see that's just not the most efficient way of doing it. Let's get some, let's work with gravity. Let's work with, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, physics, and literally make the stuff simpler, easier, more efficient. Do the hike. When you're finishing up, follow that pendulum swing, set it back down. That's it. I like to get people started just practicing this motion right here. Hike it back, bring it back out front. That's right there, the start and finish put together. After you get good reps of that and feel good about it, I'll have people do single swings. Hike, stand tall, back, out front. Hike, stand tall, back, out front. Hike, bam. That is the second portion. And then we just go into a full set of swings. Hike. And you can really develop explosive power in the hips. Get really strong with these. One of the most common, I guess I would call, mistakes that I see with kettlebell swings, well, there's a couple. So most common with the swing itself is people will try to squat it down here, and I'm just squatting, standing tall. There's a little bit of a hinge, but trying to squat, that's not it. I mean, you can do a squat swing. I'm never one to say that's the wrong way, but what I'm really looking for when I'm doing a kettlebell swing, I'm breathing heavy. I'm gonna take a little break, come right back. 1 second. Okay, caught my breath a little bit. So, like I said, one of the most common mistakes I see is trying to squat the swing more. And like I also said, that's okay. You're getting a workout, and if that's what you want to do, that's what you're shooting for, consciously, that's what you're trying to do, then do it. But when I teach the swing, and what I'm really going for is developing strength and power in that hip hinge. And that's really what we're shooting for. So it's all focused on the hips back, bowing motion here, keeping that neutral spine and hips forward, nice and straight, full extension at the top. Another mistake we'll see is overextending. So thinking you got to thrust forward in the swing. So it looks something like this. Kind of leaning back, really trying to push those hips forward. It's not like that. Your butt's going back, but then here, it's just tall, straight at the top. Really just snap. All the power coming from the glutes and just stopping where the glutes take you. You don't need to exaggerate and push more into it. That's another mistake. But then what I was really wanting to say is one of the things that I see that I'd like to see people move beyond is going too light on the kettlebell swings. We'll see somebody looking, you know, like they've got some strength to them, and definitely I know that they can handle more, and they go, I say, hey, pick your kettlebell swing weight. They'll go grab a 20-pound kettlebell and start swinging that, and that's good, but you have the ability to swing so much more weight than you really think you can. I say try to go as heavy as you can with the number of reps that you're shooting for. That's like kind of my goal with any movement. As long as you can keep it clean and you're hitting the reps that you're shooting for, go as heavy as you can. If you're doing a set of swings and it's supposed to be 10 reps, but you feel like you could do 20 or 30, that's just crazy. Go and lift some more. Move some more weight on that swing. And you're really going to actually get some training stimulus, really develop some explosive power in that swing. So me, I'm regularly swinging the 80 and the 100. That's the heaviest I got. If I had them, I could probably swing plenty more than that. You will not catch me swinging a 15 or 20 pounder unless I'm doing some kind of funky little trick swing, little trick movement or whatever, little playing around, kettlebell juggling or something like that. But basic swing, you can progress fairly quickly as long as you're able to keep your core on strong. You're not rounding your back. You don't want to round your back in a kettlebell swing. We get in here and you're moving some weight. That is rough on the back. You don't want that. So as long as you can keep that neutral spine, you're moving through the motion nice and clean, slap some weight on it. Try to make it heavy. That's it. That's the kettlebell swing. That is one of my all-time favorite movements in the book, beyond just kettlebells alone. But that is one of my top 5 kettlebell movements. Go out and try it out. Put it in your workout. I love to throw them in while I'm doing strength work. Go do a set of pull-ups, hop down, and hit my set of kettlebell swings. I'm a big-time supersetter, or whatever, people call it, cardio acceleration, different things, throwing in core exercises with my strength work. Just like to get more out of my workouts rather than just one set, take a rest, another set, take a rest. That's a whole nother video. I like to get more bang out of my time in the gym. I don't want to spend 2-3 hours like I used to in the gym. We're going to get a lot of work done in a short period of time. All right, guys. Anyway, that's getting off on a tangent. I appreciate you watching this video. We'll talk to you later. Another little cough before I go. Got a little tick there. Just push record, go. Just got to get the throat prepared to talk. Okay. I'm getting cooked. These movements are so much harder when I sit here and talk along with it. Maybe I should. That's why when you see people creating videos showing people how to do things, they stick with the lighter weights. I'm always wondering, like, why is he showing a deadlift? That strong man right there is showing a deadlift with just 135 on the bar. Well, because then he can actually talk and continue on and not get whooped like I've been doing, playing around with these heavier ones that I'm not as strong with. So, what a waste of time that few sentences was. So this last little bit, this is number 5 on my favorite kettlebell movements, and that is a squat. So I'm just going to say squats with the kettlebell. So it actually is kind of a cheat code, or a cheat here, not a code, but it's a cheat in my picking my top 5 kettlebell movements. The 5th one is just squats. And the reason is because there's just so much variety that you can do with squats with the kettlebell. So one really common one that I start people on is the kettlebell goblet squat. And you can hold it in many ways. You can hold the horns like this, and that feels really solid. Keep it close to the body and go into your squats. That's a really great beginner squat, but also you can challenge it by finding the heaviest kettlebell in the room and trying to squat it there. You're going to develop a whole lot of stability and strength in your core and in your upper back, in your shoulders and everything, holding on to some heavy ass weight and squatting with it. So it's not just your legs getting a workout there. That's a cool thing about goblet squats and front squats and things like that. And there's that. But another thing I like to do, let's get 2 of the, well, I don't want to run out of this room. I've got 2 different weights here, but they're close, a 40 and a 45. Imagine these are 2 of the same weight. So a good way to add weight to your squat with so you've goblet squatted fairly heavy weight with a single kettlebell, single dumbbell, or whatever. Now, the dual kettlebell front rack squat. Right there. So you got that rack position. And you'll see my elbows float away a little bit. So I tend to find myself, especially as it gets heavier, kind of lifting up and using my shoulders to support a little bit more. But we want to shoot for pretty much that strong rack position when it comes to that kettlebell front rack squat here. Dual kettlebell front rack squat. All the names, I'm always trying to get particular and detailed on the names, but bam. So there's that one. That's great to go a little bit heavier on a front squat with the kettlebells, with the dumbbells or anything. I find that to be really comfy compared to heavy dumbbells in the rack position. Heavy dumbbells, a lot of times I find myself wanting to lift those elbows way up here and ride like that. Kettlebells, I can keep things a little bit tighter to the body and end up going a little bit heavier. And you can get a lot of weight on the arms there. I promise the arms are going to get used to it though. Always a strong, straight wrist. You don't want to hold those kettlebells with these bent wrists here. That's just ragging on that wrist, the wrist right there, that joint. Also, it's just less efficient. You got to do a lot of work to hold on to that weight there when you could straighten the wrist out and keep it tight to the body, and you got it. So another movement, or the same thing, another squat with the kettlebell is just a single rack. It's like offset front rack squat with a kettlebell. So you just use one kettlebell. What would we call this? What do I call it when I write it on my board? So it's the single kettlebell front rack squat, which creates an offset weight here. So this weight wants to pull me down here. I got to tighten up that core to keep me nice and tall. That rack position is working a whole lot in the shoulder girdle. And we're holding that offset weight. We're using the core to stay here, not flopped over like this. We're going to work the spinal erectors, staying nice and tight, cores on tight, and we're tall and rigid, and we're doing squats. When you do these front rack, these offset squats, you want to do a certain number with the kettlebell on one side. So you might do 6 one side and 6 the other. The legs are basically getting the same thing. So you're ending up with 12 squats with that weight, but you'll be balancing the challenge from one side to the other when it comes to those offset squats. So that's something I really love with the kettlebell because it's holding that weight way out here. And I've got to use my core and stability, and it even works stability in the hips a little bit more than just your regular, centered weight squat. So the kettlebell offset rack squat, blah, blah. Here, we can also do offset split squats I mentioned before. Nice strong rack position. Really helps build more stability in that single leg. Weights over here wants to pull me down that way. Keep the core on tight. My right leg, when I do these offset squats, most of the time, I'm going to hold the weight. Working my right leg, I'm going to hold the weight on the left side. Working the left leg, I'm going to hold the weight on the right side. So those top 5 basic kettlebell movements that I go for, you will see them in my program. I've been working with kettlebells for 10 years now, something like that. And I'll never go back. I'm never going to quit on my kettlebells. If there's one piece of equipment that I could choose from to have to keep me strong, I think it would be a moderate weighted kettlebell that I could press overhead for 5 reps. If I can press a kettlebell overhead for strict for 5 reps, then I'm pretty set on being able to stay strong in so many different types of movements. And I would be solid. I'll be able to come back to the gym and lift the same as I ever did probably. Well, I don't know what I'm saying there. Maybe not. But if I had to pick one piece of equipment to have for my minimalist gym, it would be a moderate weight kettlebell that I could press overhead strict for 5 reps. That's going to be the most limiting movement is my overhead with the kettlebell, but it's going to be a decent weight for my swings, for my rows, for my presses, chest presses, squats, all kinds of things, Turkish get-ups. I know I'll be able to do all the other moves if I can at least get that overhead press for 5. So if you're going to buy a kettlebell, that's what I would do. That's what I would go for. You're going to get your first kettlebell, go test them out. Find one that you can clean, good form, strict press overhead for 5 reps and start with that weight. And I promise you, you can make all kinds of progress. And when you can get that weight strict press for 10 or 12 reps overhead, then you're going to be able to do massively amounts more weight with a lot of other movements in the kettlebells. So that's that on my top 5 kettlebell exercises. This video has gone kind of long. I get long in the tooth, they call it. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for sticking around and watching this, especially if you watched it till the end. I really appreciate you. Love you all. Like and subscribe to this. Like this video and subscribe to my channel. Share with some friends. Share with some family. Get out there and keep moving your bodies. This is just part of life. You need to move. Get sweaty. Feel it. Find out what you're capable of. Talk to you later, guys.